Hello all. Quick little video. Well, I say quick. I just did a take of this, but I did it again because I don't want to really edit this video. I want this video is supposed to be just a quick little one time through video, just to be done and done. But it didn't quite get that well, so I'm gonna try it again. And this time, and I've already watched this video before I did even thought about recording this, but I wanted to record it so I can take you through my thoughts on it all. So, yeah, the video, as you can see, is a bit on Trump. I think it's one of his plans. It's his plan for gender-affirming care for children. I think it's some sort of like early pre-campaign manifesto video or something. I don't know. I only got a little confused because I thought it was a video that was released post-election. Then I read it when it was actually uploaded January 1st, 2023 last year. But then it also said Trump 2024, so I think it was like an early campaign thing or something. I don't know. But either way, I saw it on a live stream first, and now I just want to do a quick little short video, hopefully short video, just going through his points and giving my thoughts on it. And yeah, so without further ado, attempt number 2. Let's get into this, shall we?
The left-wing gender insanity being pushed on our children is an act of child abuse. Very simple. Here's my plan to stop the chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth. On day 1, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care. Ridiculous. A process that includes giving kids puberty blockers, mutating their physical appearance, and ultimately performing surgery on minor children. Can you believe?
So, I was hearing arguments about this online, and I was confused because I was under the impression, I was like, what? Surely that's not, the kids aren't that young and that's sort of surgery. I did one bit of research which confirmed that, but then I saw it again, and then once I was trying to find the information I found previously, I actually had more information that confirmed the original theory, which surprised me because I was under the impression that both like similarly to the UK and stuff, like you could only get transgender surgery if you were like 18 or like minimum 16, I think, or 18 or something. But it's, well, I was surprised to learn that however, for what under circumstances it was, I think it was with parental consent or something, or some thing had to be eligible for 14-year-olds to be able to get it. That's what shocked me, and I'm not afraid to admit I'm not a massive fan of Donald Trump. Whether you believe all the negativity around him or not, I believe him to not be a very good man. There are some things that I find that are quite dodgy about him, but that's what my belief. And I simply, well, no, not simply, but where I admit that I'm not a fan of him, I do agree with this. And if he's working to stop minors from getting transgender surgeries, then that's good on him for that. Because I mean it is not right. Like at 14, for example, for that one website I saw, the body is still going through puberty at that time, and the kid is still just a kid. There are many social and mental factors that might change that kid's thinking, but that is as a responsibility of the parent to, and teachers, but we'll get to that in a second. But at the first point, parents to essentially tell them that pretty much all LGBTQ plus stuff, or primarily transgender, is something that they shouldn't worry about, or they should at least talk through with people first before they do anything. Because I agree that is not something that a kid should be at least participating in at that age. So, yeah.
Believe this. I will sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. I will then ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being used to promote or pay for these procedures and pass a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. It'll go very quickly. I will declare that any hospital or healthcare provider that participates in the chemical or physical mutilation of minor youth will no longer meet federal health and safety standards for Medicaid and Medicare and will be terminated from the program immediately. Furthermore, I will support the creation of a private right of action for victims to sue doctors who have unforgivably performed these procedures on minor children. The Department of Justice will investigate Big Pharma and the big hospital networks to determine whether they have deliberately covered up horrific long-term side effects of sex transitions in order to get rich at the expense of vulnerable patients, in this case, very vulnerable. We will also investigate whether Big Pharma or others have illegally marketed hormones and puberty blockers which are in no way licensed or approved for this use. My Department of Education will inform states and school districts that if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that they could be trapped in the wrong body, they will be faced with severe consequences, including potential civil rights violations for sex discrimination and the elimination of federal funding. As part of our new credentialing body for teachers, we will promote positive education about the nuclear family, the roles of mothers and fathers, and celebrating rather than erasing the things that make men and women different and unique.
So, that was the part that got me a little bit. Now, I'm not too sure what he means by, I think it was suggesting that they're not in the right body or something like that, what he said. Let me just go back and double check.
So investigate whether Big Pharma or licensed school districts be trapped in the wrong body or school officials suggest to a child that they could be...
Yes, so suggest that they could be trapped in the moment. Now, I don't know if that's him saying that literally them telling the kids, hey, you could be this. Because I agree that's not the best way of doing it. I don't know whether he means that, or that's just his way of explaining them, just teaching the subject, which I would not agree with. Like, that's sort of what's sort of happened with a lot of the whole of what I was talking about a minute ago, I think, with what's happened with especially the over sexualization and like all the mental health stuff and everything else that's happened in the last few years in that sort of area. It's the lack of education. What should be happening is not necessarily just telling them that they are or they could be, but informing them about it all. So informing them about the LGBTQ plus community, informing them what all the initials stand for and what all the sub categories mean, and the benefits and risks involved in each one, especially transgender, because if they're taught it, at least, because if they're at least taught it, that prevents them from hearing about it, learning about, then thinking what is that, and then going to their own means to find out what it means. And that's where a lot of these things go wrong, I shall say, sometimes, because they're not told it in a careful environment, in a safe educational environment where with parents or with teachers. It's being fed to them through the social media, which isn't the best place for any kid to learn anything, to be honest, in many ways. And they learn about it through social media, where it's a lot of the time full on and in full practice. And that's where they get influenced and they will start wanting to try things, and that's where it goes into that. So if he's means literally downright just not teaching it, that I don't agree with. But if he's basically just telling teachers not to infer to the kids that's what they could be, then yeah, I agree with that. Don't do that again.
Trapped in the wrong body, they will be faced with severe consequences, including potential civil rights violations for sex discrimination and the elimination of federal funding. As part of our new credentialing body for teachers, we will promote positive education about the nuclear family, the roles of mothers and fathers, and celebrating rather than erasing the things that make men and women different and unique. I will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth. The bill will also make clear that Title IX prohibits men from participating in women's sports, and we will protect the rights of parents from being forced to allow their minor child to assume a gender which is new and an identity without the parent's consent. The identity will not be new, and it will not be without parental consent. No serious country should be telling its children that they were born with the wrong gender, a concept that was never heard of in all of human history. Nobody's ever heard of this, what's happening today. It was all when the radical left invented it just a few years ago. Under my leadership, this madness will end. Thank you very much.
So, those last few points. And again, I'm a bit foggy on what he means with some of this stuff, because obviously I know a lot of people use sex and gender loosely. Some people mean sex as, the male and female sex. Some people use that, but they use, some people use gender for that instead. So, if he simply means just saying that there is just the male and female sex, but leaving the LGBTQ thing out of that, then I guess that's fine. But if he's suggesting that he's gonna say that essentially LGBTQ is unlawful, that's not good. Because that essentially is the President of the United States basically turning millions of Americans into criminals like that, just because of who they feel they are and who they want to love. But I'm not gonna. That's how I feel about that. But I'm not gonna. But that's just my views on those situations if they were to happen. I'm not saying it outright because again I'm not too sure what he means exactly by that. The next part though, when he says that this whole thing is new. It never existed beforehand. It was a new thing that the radical left invented only a few years ago. I'm going to take that he means a few years ago in the literal sense, by that meaning 3 years ago. To which I'm gonna reply with no. That is false. Like many things, it may not have been as, it's not, okay, I'll admit, it's not as prevalent as it used to be, but that's evolution and progression. That's just the evolution of society just changing and evolving on its own. Just because there's nothing we invented, it was always there, but it's taken only till like in the last couple decades for people to actually no, this is all fine, it's not as bad as we thought it was. An example of this, I don't mean really this whole thing, but there was a video that I watched the other day, called "When Cops Saved by Unexpected People." Essentially, a video where basically it was showing a lot of different situations where cops were in a bit of spot of bother trying to catch a criminal, and the general public sort of helped them out a little bit. One of the videos was where a pregnant woman, not sure how pregnant, the only saw was her body cam, not her herself. But all we saw was a pregnant woman struggling, having a bit of trouble with apprehending a suspect. And in one of the comments there was this, which sparked a whole load of different sub conversations, basically around the topic of that women shouldn't be in the force, and that God didn't intend for them to be in the force. That's why, and the women are weak, and that's what God made them like that for a reason, and everything else. That's where the conversation went, and there were a few things that I saw that I commented on as well. But mainly, there was one guy that was basically just I was explaining to one guy that basically, he'd said that the fact that everything was fine, and everything was all fine with how it with the world until feminism came and convinced women that the roles they previously were happy to have they shouldn't have, essentially. And I basically went back to him to say, it's more of not. Yes, but only because the way that the world it was for a long time was a very religious place, and the whole idea of the Christian family structure of like the man in the house, the woman staying home, and everything. It was a very honourable and it was the thing at the time. It was a very honourable thing to uphold. But I was also at the time when, because of those sort of roles, men sort of saw fit to didn't see women fit to do a lot of other things, like have a higher education or have the right to vote. Which is when women started to think, actually, we're not really wanting this. We want a bit more freedom in our lives, and then that sparked it. The war of feminism essentially is meant to be today, about equality for all. But the same thing is here. Like, it's all about, and there's nothing new. It's been around for same with that whole feminist and religious stuff. It's nothing. Feminism isn't new. LGBTQ being gay isn't new. Sexuality differences isn't new. But when it was, but they both, well, not feminism per se, but LGBTQ does have a stigma behind it from, at least before the 21st century, at least, of being a bad thing, part due to religion. But then, obviously, we as a human race, we evolved, we progressed, we did research into the whole topic, and we discovered that, actually, hold on, maybe it's not as bad as we think, and we discovered that it's all part of the brain and how the brain works. Anyway, my closing thoughts on this are basically that I'm not sure. There are a lot of things I'm not too sure about given his wording. There are a lot of stuff it could mean. There's lots of stuff it could mean, which I don't necessarily agree with. But there's also a lot of stuff that there's also a lot of stuff that it could mean, which is also stuff that's actually quite good for a lot of people, and actually I agree with. On the whole, I agree with banning minor transgender operations, or transgender operations of minors. I agree with that. That's something that should never have been a thing in the first place. But everything else, I'm a little on the fence about, because I'm not too sure what the wording he's used, and could mean different things depending on how he's thinking about it. So, yeah. This is not a hate video or anything. I'm literally I'm listening to what he's saying, and I'm giving my response as to how it sounds to me. You might agree with me, you might not. I am a strong advocate against Trump, I will admit, but I am attempting to try and be a lot less, say, judgmental about it all and everything else, and maybe see him in a bit of a better light or something, I don't know, but I mainly just saw this video and wanted to give my thoughts on everything else, so yeah. Yeah, so if you got to the end of this part, thank you, and I'll see you later.